This is a Windy 39 Camira, and this is a thing of absolute joy. It's possibly one of the best high-performance weekenders that money can buy, and that starts right here on the outside. You can see just what a deep V hull this is, and the idea of that is to give a fantastic ride. It means that when it starts chopping up, it's a fast boat, but you don't need to slow down. It'll just cut through it like the proverbial knife through butter. I actually tested one of these when they very first came out. In fact, if I can find the video, I will put a link to it in the description. It's worth seeing, because this was just an amazing thing to drive. And that's what this is. It's a driver's boat. It's low, it's sleek, and it's just something you go out and have a tremendous amount of fun with. But it's so capable. It's the sort of thing where you could be in Torquay and think, hey, it's a lovely day, let's go to Channel Islands for lunch, and blast out there in like 2.5 hours. It's properly quick. We'll talk about the engines, of course, when we go on board. She's a stern drive boat, so you can see those out drives are here, or stern drives. Duo props, so these counter rotate. Twin engine installation, of course. And the thing that really stands out with these as well, apart from performance, is the quality. Windy build a very, very high quality boat. Anyway, let's step on board. We're at Berthon at the minute. So that is actually the home of Windy. They're the main dealers in the UK, and so a great place to come and look at Windies. In fact, there's another one here. That's a smaller one. I think it's a 27, and again, very much a sports boat style. I might see if we can get a tour of that while we're here. But anyway, focus Burnham. Let's have a look at this one. So this is the boat from here, and as you can see, it's a very powerful looking, sleek boat. If we head on here, this is typical Windy attention to detail. Now, my boat has a ladder underneath here with a hatchlet lift. What my boat doesn't have is a gas strut to hold that in place. That's the sort of little details. It's only a small thing, but it's shot through with details like that that just make it really nice to use. There is a small tender gouge in here, but it is a really small one. So you can put a small inflatable in there rather than having to deflate it every time. It's a nice feature to have, but you're not going to get a rib or anything like that in there. Also back here, again, neat attention to detail. This is a fender rack. I don't know how well you can see that. In fact, let's pull one out and I can show you. They're all black, so they're not very easy to see. But yeah, all your fenders just drop into there, out of the way. When you take them off the boat, they're not rolling around the cockpit or getting in the way. They're all tucked neatly out of the way. And then this is the cockpit here. Now, interestingly, Windy came out with this boat with a different cockpit design. It had a sort of circular seating that went around here, and then wet bar on either side at the front. They changed that to this big U shape, which I think is much more practical. This backrest, in fact, you can power back, so you can make this all into one big sunbed, or you can have it forward as it is at the moment, and that, of course, then is seating. Again, look at this. They've got this tailor-made cover to go on the table, and that's because the table underneath here is a really lovely piece of teak artwork, really. Let's just open that up, and I will show you. I'll put that back on afterwards. It's very windy today, so I'm going to put that on the floor where it'll get blown away, hopefully. But look how this is all neatly embossed with the Windy logo and these wonderful, completely flush hinges. It's just lovely. Everywhere you look at these boats, they're just lovely. Another very clever feature while we're back here is the canopy system. Now, Windy had this set up so that this would be your day space, but also your night space. So they wanted to make the canopy very easy to deploy. And in fact, you can see the framework for it here. It goes right down here and it hinges up there. And so to put the canopy in place, all you need to do is lift this cushion off, which is much easier when you're not one-handed using a GoPro, of course. And then this lifts, and there it is. And all you have to do then is literally physically get hold of it and lift it. You can see the whole thing coming up, and it lifts up into place, self-supports, and that gives you like a bimini, and then the sides come down and clip on. And what is clever is that normally when you're clipping canopies on, to have them taut, you have to really pull them down and hook them on. With this one, they go on nice and easy, and then you push a button and the whole thing rises up slightly to tension everything. Attention to detail again, very nice. Let's close that one back down. Again, slightly tricky one-handed. What I'm going to do is wedge that cushion with my leg, and that will drop down easily. There we go. That cushion then can come back. And that's it. I can do it a little bit neater, of course, if we're not doing this one-handed, but that'll do for the minute. You get the idea. What they've done with this as well is they've made this the full beam of the boat. That's because it's quite a narrow boat, because it's all about performance, but by not having side decks on it, it means you've got actually still a very decent sized cockpit. And you're sat nice and deep in here as well. If I sit down here, I am down out of the wind, I'm sheltered by the screens, and so you do sit in the boat, not on it. And then opposite, over on this side, is the wet bar. So that is 2-burner hob underneath there, the sink, and then underneath that is the fridge, and that's just a little bit of storage on that side. There's a load more storage actually underneath the floor as well. If we lift this one up, the canopy is in there at the minute. That's like a flat tonneau cover, so you have two canopies. You have the one that lifts up that I just showed you. That canopy in there is just a flat cover that comes down across, so when you're leaving the boat you don't have to put everything up. If you don't want to, you can just put the tonneau over it and keep it sheltered. Let's move up to the business end. Now these are lift bolster seats, so you can have them lifted up if you want to stand. If you have no legs, like Jack, well then of course you'd have that down so that you can sit there nice and comfortably. It's a bit full at the minute. Don't fall over, Jack. Let's put him back where he was. There we go. Maybe he's just very drunk, I don't know. On this side, 2 seats, and again, lift bolsters. And this is very much windy quality again, so the stainless steel backing for these switches, for example. That switch there, a rather unusual looking one, that's the tensioner switch for the canopy. So when you've got the canopy in place, you push that one and it, as I say, just rises up into place. This is a very windy detail just here. These instruments, what they do is they pair these. So imagine down the centre line, that's all the instruments for the port engine, and that's the instruments for the starboard, but they mirror outwards. So that's a helm indicator, tells you which way your outdrives are pointed when you're manoeuvring. But then you've got things like your water temperature and your battery, but you see they mirror outwards. So your battery, water temperature, trim is here, oil pressure. The reason for this is you can glance at this and just make sure those match and those match, make sure that they mirror, and then you know that everything's okay without having to look at the specific gauges. If you looked at this and saw that that one was up here and that one was down here, well then something's not right somewhere. So it's a way of keeping a very quick check very easily. Over on this side, got the, I called this an MDF the other day, and it's not, it's an MFD, of course, a multifunction display. So that's showing charts at the moment, as you can see, and you can display various other information. We've got a bow thruster on this one, we've got engine controls here, and the outdrives on this trim simultaneously with this side trim button, or if you want to trim them independently, you can use these buttons on the front, and you've got trim tabs at the back. Now I mentioned there's no side decks, and the cockpit comes right to the edge. Another lovely windy detail is this rail that goes around the inside of the screen. If you want to get up onto the foredeck, you can do. You use these steps up here. So a couple of steps up, open the screen, and you're straight out and onto the front. It's actually quite handy if you're short-handed, or if you're on your own basically. You can be at the helm there, and then to tie up just come straight up through rather than to go down and back and round and up. So it does work quite well from that perspective. Now if you come right up to the front here, then you've got electric anchor winch. You can see the buttons for it here. That is the anchor locker, so your anchor is there, and you can see it actually goes out through the hull rather than sticking over the front, and the winch itself like so. And then these little side ones are accessed down to the chain locker. Very cool looking boat, isn't it? Let's go and have a look inside. So I mentioned this is probably the ultimate high performance weekender, and what they've done is they've made this all so that this is where you spend your time during the day or in the evening with the canopy up, and therefore all of the interior really is overnight accommodation. So you step on down, you've got a passageway through the boat. There's a little, almost like a utility area really, isn't it, just here. So this is a fridge, so at night when you get yourself a drink you can do. There's a sink there, and you've got storage underneath and up above, and in fact there's a microwave in this one as well, so that's not storage. That one's storage. There we go. And again, beautifully trimmed with this Alcantara type soft touch finish and these inset lights, all very nicely done. Let's head right to the front. Even the light switches are stainless steel on here. And this then is your master cabin. So double bed up here. This is all storage around the top. I'll just open one of them so you can see. like so. You've got hanging lockers in here as well. They are on both sides. And then these lights are on dimmers. There's also some concealed lighting up in behind here. If I switch that one off, you can see it up in behind, and then that one goes back on like that. And as I mentioned, I don't know how I'm able to see this, but if I press and hold that, I'll be able to see how those dim down. Like so. All very nicely done. Reading lights up at the head of the bed there as well. And then if we come back a little bit further, back here is another cabin. So you can take some friends along, and they've got their own completely separate space on the boat. And by not putting any accommodation down here in terms of seating and so forth, it means that both those cabins, despite being such a sporty boat, are actually a pretty decent size. And also a decent size is the heads. Now both the cabins share this, so you've got your loo and a sink, and then you've got a separate shower area in through there. You can see the doors for it just here, and the shower head is up there, a translucent skylight, so you've got light but also privacy. And again, the details, look at those backlit, there's a little shelf here. All very nice indeed. And the other thing that we've got in this area is these traps are to take us straight down into the bilges. So for example, if we look in this one, you can see the sea cocks down there for the toilet. So you can close those off, obviously, to keep the water out if ever you had a problem. And then you've got water pump in here and so forth. So that's just access to bilges and systems. And the other thing that this boat's got, which is quite nice, is a central heating system as well. So at night you can heat this area. In fact, that's just reminded me of one other thing, something I've not seen on other boats, but there's actually a matrix in the cooling water for the engines, so that it'll run blowers. You can just see them underneath the windscreen and demist the windscreens all the way around. Again, it's a neat little touch. I'm going to close that window, otherwise it'll irritate me. There we go. That's a substantial piece of stainless steel, actually, stainless steel and glass. There we go. That's the navigation light up ahead there. So, last thing to talk about, last but certainly not least, is the engines, and they're accessed down here. And we'll step on down and take a look. Now these are a pair of Volvo Penta D6 400 horsepower engines. They're 5.5 litres each, turbocharged and I think supercharged, so you've got acceleration and top end. Now there's something that's always amused me about this boat. It is a very high performance boat. It is a waterborne Lamborghini. They offer it with these 400s, but they also offer it with a pair of D6 370s. And I always wonder, why would somebody buy a boat like this and think, yes, I'll have the very slightly slower engines. I do wonder if they've ever sold any. I would bet £1 that they haven't. They've all gone out with these D6 400s. In fact, the very latest boats have got D6 440s. In 2015, when this boat was built, those weren't out, but they are now. So the current models are even faster still. However, you are not short of performance with these. It's over 40 knots. I think from memory it's about 42 knots, and you can cruise at about 3,000 RPM and about 35 knots, so you can really cover ground. That's a very comfortable cruising speed, and that deep V hull means that you can maintain that even when it's chopping up a bit, and that's what makes this a sort of Channel Islands for lunch or Torquay to pool for the weekend very, very easily. It's properly fast. And again, it's all beautifully finished in here, the way that everything is done. It's all so clean. You've got to bear in mind this boat is 6 years old, but it's been well looked after, and just the quality of the boat generally is so nice. And that is the fuel tank. Range, that's just reminded me, you're looking at 300 miles, and that's at 35 knots. So again, it's giving the boat some serious legs. More batteries over on this side, hot water system also over on this side, battery isolators at the back there. Very good, and that's where those fenders drop into. Excellent. Let's come back out of here. Well, they've done this lighting down underneath here, so at night it's all lit, low level all the way around. Beautiful. Again, it's all little touches again. Okay. Let's drop that one back down. As you can probably tell, I'm rather enthusiastic about this boat, and as I mentioned earlier, I'll put a link to when I drove one of these when they very first came out, and you'll understand why, because they are an incredible thing to drive, but actually a really nice boat in their own right as well. It's not just about performance, it's about quality, and it's about the feel of the thing generally. It's just a lovely, lovely machine. So that's it. Huge thanks to Berthon for organising that tour for me, and huge thanks as ever to you guys for watching. We'll catch you on another one very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.